girl for you. That's Kat McDonald's sister.
She's very good.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, we're here. We have Shawn Buckley here, and also Dee Nicholson
Hello.
has
Hi,
joined
Dee.
us at the table. Hi, Dee.
Hi, Aaron.
Nice to have you.
Nice to be here.
Great.
And Shawn, it's great to have you back
It's
in
really
town.
nice to be here.
I guess you, are you,
And just for Rose, my fat-ass brother-in-law.
Thank you. Thank you,
It's
Rose.
just for Rosie and your wife. On
Thank
account of
you,
she's my
Dee Dee.
fat-ass sister. We're
You-
all
you
fat-ass
guys are
sisters
related?
together. No, we're all fat-ass sisters together.
I don't understand what that means.
It's
Dee.
a private joke, but we are all three activists, and we're gathering women with us and becoming sisters and taking up the cause. And so each one of us comes from a different area.
Yeah.
You know, Sean's lovely wife, Barbara Jean, and Rose Stevens out in Kelowna. And then we have Franca in Winnipeg, and we're gathering women, and it's getting kind of neat because
Okay,
we're
that's
having
great.
fun.
We need to talk more about that stuff. It's
Yeah,
important.
one of these days for sure.
Right.
All right, and Shawn, you're here for the national or
Natural.
the
Total Health Show.
Total-
That's right. So I'm speaking both on Saturday and Sunday, one of the speakers, and also on a panel. So certainly encourage any of your viewers to come out and see the show.
Yeah, and that's going to be one heck of a panel, by the way. Jeffrey Smith is on it.
Okay.
He's a very, very, very powerful advocate against genetically modified food.
Speaking of that Monsanto stuff, I would love to cover with what's happening with the lawsuits later.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
which
Yeah,
is very
absolutely.
exciting. But you were mentioning some really important subjects before we started. There's a lot to cover today. But
Well, yeah, it's interesting. One thing that I've noticed, because people send me communications they get from Health Canada and from MPs when they write and complain about losing access to natural remedies. And now the Natural Health Product Directorate of Health Canada is communicating to people and basically bragging of how many natural health products they forced off the market because of so-called adverse reactions. And I find it fascinating because it shows that we're not on a level playing field. So the pharmaceuticals are privileged and the natural remedies are taken off the market. So for example, there's not a single death we can point to in Canadian history caused by a natural health product. And I think it would even be difficult in all of our history to find where somebody's had to be actually hospitalized.
right.
So I could be, like, just statistically speaking, when you've got 20 million Canadians regularly taking natural health products, I could just have the flu. Or I could take, too much vitamin D and get a flush feeling and phone Health Canada and I can file an adverse reaction report. It's actually the person who files the report who gets to say, classify the reaction. So I could say, I got feeling really terrible, all of this. They will force that product off the market. Like, I've seen it because people phone me in my law firm where they're being basically a demand to take a product off the market. Health Canada usually won't even share what the complaint is. And it got me thinking about the bias. So let's say the threshold for demanding a product be taken off the market is a single Canadian death. What if Health Canada enforced that for a year? Would there be any chemical pharmaceuticals left?
Nope.
Certainly your Tylenol, your aspirin, most of your cold remedies would be off the market. I mean, I'm even talking over-the-counter stuff,
Yep.
let alone prescription.
Even
If-
Alka-Seltzer.
If the
Absolutely.
threshold was a single death, probably after a year there wouldn't be a single chemical drug left on the market, and there wouldn't be a single natural health product taken off of the market. And yet, that's not what happens. In fact, it seems the regulatory body bends over backwards to keep the chemical drugs on the market and does everything it can, any hint of a complaint, a natural remedy is taken off. And I think it's just interesting for illustrating the bias.
Yeah, and that bias is getting really ridiculous when they start fuzzing the word natural. Like this, I think this is one of the reasons why they're playing with toothpaste, why they've moved oral health products made by companies like Procter & Gamble, Colgate Palmolive, Lever Brothers. They're moving these products. They had them under the drug identification number system, not all of them, but a lot of them. And then they said, oh, well, you don't fit the drug identification number category, so we're going to put you under natural products. Well, if you go and look at the ingredients on oral health products, there's nothing healthy about them.
Absolutely.
They're loaded with sodium fluoride. They're loaded with polyethylene glycol, or PEG-12. They're loaded with saccharin. They're loaded with all kinds of stuff that you would never feed your kid.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was just reading an article on how they recommend that babies need to start brushing their teeth soon, how much they need the fluoride, and if they don't do that, you should give them the supplement.
They
It's that
used
important.
to.
Literally supplement fluoride?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
You know, in the
it blew me
future,
away.
that will be a criminal activity.
I hope so, because it's really upsetting me, and
Well,
I have a child, so it
It used
hits
to be
home.
the case that they advertised, and I have some of the copies of ads back at home on my computer. They used to advertise that if you wanted to raise a healthy baby, it should drink 7-Up. Okay?
Yeah.
And then there were other ads that said if you wanted to have a quiet, soothed baby, give them these cocaine pills.
Lovely.
Because cocaine used to be a standard medicament. It was in cough medicine. It was in all kinds of things.
Now, where do you get those pills, Dee?
You're not a baby anymore. You don't need it. You come on.
In the museum, honey. In the museum is where you can find these things. I can send you the ads, though. You can sit and drool.
But your point about toothpaste, though, raises another bias issue. Because I think most people are aware that fluoride is very dangerous. I mean, the only people who seem oblivious of that is our public health officials.
Right.
And yet, so here, pick up your toothpaste. It will have an NPN number. It's getting licensed by Health Canada. We're supposed to have to prove safety.
Oh, yeah.
And yet I'm aware of a natural health product manufacturer who could not get parsley in capsules, just dried parsley put in capsules. They couldn't get a license because they couldn't provide evidence that parsley is safe. And when you think about it, who's done a clinical study showing the safety of parsley?
Well, by
You-
that token,
you
they're
can't
going to
prove
come and
it's
raid
safe.
my turkey.
So Shawn, are you saying that Health Canada approves
Oh, man.
fluoride
Uh-huh.
for use in human human consumption, but not parsley?
Here's the thing.
No, so I'm hoping we're all feeling safe. For those of us who are feeling particularly threatened by parsley, don't worry, the government is here to protect you.
Oh,
but
for
it
heaven's
it
sakes.
shows the bias.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. And another thing that gets under my skin is you'll have like a young science grad at Health Canada who will be going through a license application, and they'll refuse it. And this will be a remedy that will be, will have been used, let's say, by traditional Chinese practitioners or naturopathic doctors for decades and decades or longer. And by refusing the license application, in effect, takes that remedy away from natural health practitioners, which is a health decision. And it's causing absolute crisis for patients who are being successfully managed. And so we're having a real problem. This licensing requirement, although it sounds good, is having just plain pandemonium, and it's having adverse health effects.
Yeah.
So I wrote to Health Canada. I did an access to information request. Well, I did several. One of them was, did you do a single risk analysis before you brought these regulations in, showing that there was a danger to justify them? And they have not fulfilled that request. I know there isn't one.
Right.
But I also sent one in saying, have you done a risk analysis showing the harm that will be caused when you basically remove products from the market because of these regulations? And again, no risk analysis will have been done.
That would be
And-
too logical.
No, and it's interesting. I just recently wrote a piece for the Health Action Network Society because we can't take products away that people rely on for their health. So if you or I took away, it doesn't matter if it was a chemical drug or natural remedy, if somebody's relying on it and we take it away, well, if they die, we're facing either homicide or criminal negligence causing death, and we're going to jail for the rest of our life. If let's say we were a manufacturer of a remedy and we had it out on the marketplace and people were relying on it for their lives, and we took it away, we would be guilty of criminal negligence, again causing death or bodily harm depending on the outcome, and we'd be prosecuted. And yet Health Canada can take products away that people rely on for their health, and they're immune.
And all they
And
get
it's
is a
just
slap on the wrist from a court.
Well, they don't even get that. The
Well, they
courts-
got a verbal tongue lashing in the True Hope case, but that was about it. I mean, nobody did anything. People died when Empower Plus was taken off the market. And True Hope is still going after Health Canada. Are they not? I mean, you're involved with that one. And I know that Tony Stefan he's just not going to give up until he wins. And good for him, because we have to fight back. I was talking to a lady at Health Canada the other day, and we were trying to confirm all of the NPNs that are going on all these oral health products under natural categories, which is just ridiculous. And she confirmed to me that they are now holding seminars in Health Canada with a guy from the Therapeutic Goods Agency in Australia who's been brought over as a trainer for the inspectors. There's, 1,500 new ones, Shawn?
I'm actually not sure of the new number, but it is alarming.
Yeah,
that
and
Health
they're
Canada
training them now. And this is a guy who was over in Australia who actually knocked out pan products over there. Now, they held 70% of the Australian health market, and they had nearly 4,000 products. And this guy and his team wiped out, I think it was 3,796 or something products. And Pan turned around and sued them and won. They won. $55 million lawsuit, and they won.
Against the Australian government?
Against the Australian government. And when I was talking to this lady from Health Canada, I said, if you think that's not going to happen here, I said, you're at a tipping point now. You've only got a couple of companies coming after you and saying, hold on here, you can't do this. But the more this stuff goes on, the angrier people are getting. And we on the health freedom side are just basically saying, bring it. Let's go. We've had it.
Good.
We've had it.
I was at a meeting a little while back here in Toronto of natural health people, and they were saying, especially, we're quoting people out west, where you are, Shawn, and they were saying there's going to be blood on the streets out here. They were so
Figuratively
they
speaking,
were
yeah.
figuratively speaking, because we're Canadian.
That's right.
But I mean, what's it going to take really to hold Health Canada, hold the government accountable for what's going on?
They got to threaten our beer.
Well, we got the they've
That's
already.
right. We need to pass a law requiring beer to get NPNs, so get licensed, because half the products fail. We're going to lose half of our beers, and I think that would wake Canadians.
Do you
No,
know
no.
what,
As long as there's
Shawn?
one
You know
beer
what,
that's
Shawn?
available, Shawn.
That's not so far-fetched, folks. That is
So-
not
No,
so
it's not, but
far-fetched.
it's funny.
It's
though.
already happened.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. It's already happened.
Yeah.
I believe it was Anheuser-Busch who sued in the U.S. because they were going to allow GMO hops.
But back to your question, what it's going to take, because actually it's very alarming what they're getting away with right now. I mean, Dee had raised the True Hope case, and for those of your viewers who aren't familiar with it, they make a vitamin and mineral supplement to treat bipolar disorder and major depressive disorder. Early research was showing such a dramatic improvement that actually the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Calgary convinced the Alberta government to fund a large double-blind clinical trial. Health Canada shut that trial down halfway through. No complaints from anyone in the trial. Designed to chemical, drug, pharmaceutical standards for safety. And they shut down a government-funded trial on nutrition. And then they start attacking the company and taking the product away, and people committed suicide. Actually, the Alberta branch of the Canadian Mental Health Association, their executive director, Ron Lachenesse, started holding press conferences. Can you imagine what it would take for an executive director of the Canadian Mental Health Association to start holding press conferences blaming Health Canada for suicides?
Yeah.
But they were just so worried about what was happening. It took a year before the Minister of Health agreed to allow people to import this product again. And there were suicides. So they charged True Hope. The criminal court threw the charges out, saying it was necessary. People would have died if True Hope had listened to Health Canada. Well, the flip side is then didn't Health Canada commit criminal negligence? They had been warned before they took the product away that it would put people in harm's way. When before people died, they were being warned, listen, you're going to cause suicides. After they were being told about suicides, both by True Hope and then independent people like the Canadian Mental Health Association, they still continued taking the product away for almost a full year. So if you or I did that, we would be having this interview from our jail cell.
And you'd be
right.
wearing
In a
stripes
federal
of a different sort.
penitentiary.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yet they're allowed to do that. And after the acquittal, I sent a letter to the Minister of Health, then Tony Clement, saying, look, this is what's happened. Will you hold an inquiry? And it was just absolutely ignored.
Did you get any response back?
Oh, eventually we got a response, basically just, thank you for your letter, but... it
Yeah,
was
they
too late.
usually wait till you have a long beard before they answer.
Right.
So True Hope, to try and prevent the government from basically killing people again with the seizure power, challenged the seizure power in federal court. Because the seizure power allows an inspector to seize any drug if he or she thinks that there is an offense.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is it can be a minor offense. It could be a labeling violation. It doesn't have to be something that actually creates a safety risk. And at the federal court level, when you're challenging legislation saying it's unconstitutional, all of the case law says you have to show, well, what's the broad effect? And so we led all this evidence showing the harm that was caused on others, and the trial judge said, that's not relevant. I'm excluding that evidence, which is just absolutely fascinating. So here we are inviting the judge to find that actually Health Canada caused deaths, the whole bit, and saying you cannot take away vital drugs without first telling people you've taken them and giving them an opportunity to get them back if they're essential. Like, there has to be a balancing between a medical need and the state's interest in enforcement.
Right.
And right now there's no balancing. So the court excludes all our evidence and then finds, no, everything's fine, this is constitutional. So we go to the Federal Court of Appeal, and basically we got snookered. The Court of Appeal said, this is a very complicated appeal. We're going to break it up into stages, and you're limited in your first stage to have the question answered, should you have been able to lead all this broad evidence of the effect on others. And we're True Hopes, and David Hardy, one of the founders of True Hope, they were the parties, were their charter rights violated. So in the Federal Court of Appeal, they actually don't decide that issue. Well, we're going to assume you could have brought this evidence in, but we're not going to decide it. They actually said that in the judgment. And then, remember, none of that evidence is before the court. They say, well, we'll assume there were some violations, but the sections are constitutional. And I found it interesting. We weren't allowed to argue at that stage whether it was constitutional or not. That was supposed to be a later stage, and yet they decided it without any of the evidence. So we have a case where basically the courts have whitewashed what happened. They've excluded all of the evidence and basically said to Health Canada, no, what you did was okay.
So what does that mean? Does that mean we don't have courts that are acting in the name or the principles of justice?
That would be too broad.
For some people.
Yeah.
No, it would be
Office
too
of the
broad.
court here.
Yes. Bearing in mind, if I say the wrong thing, I would be disciplined by my law society.
Yeah.
Right.
So lawyers have to be very careful criticizing courts, but we are allowed to say we think that a decision is very disappointing and wrong. And the problem with this decision is it leaves people without a choice. So if a drug you rely on is seized, this court said, well, the seizure power is fine. In fact, they said you shouldn't even attack the seizure power. They chastised us for asking them to consider whether this power was unconstitutional. They said, because they're always exercising it for some other reason, and you should attack the other reason, which to me is just surreal. Well, for example, you're being investigated for an offense. Well, who cares? Because what we're asking the court is, if you seize a vital health product, A, tell the person whose product it is that was seized, and B, give them an opportunity to balance. Because our Constitution, Section 7, says that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the security of the person, and the right not to be deprived thereof, except in accordance with the principles of fundamental justice. That's been interpreted by courts as including the right to make vital health decisions. I mean, just read the medical marijuana cases. They're absolutely wonderful cases where the courts outline that things of fundamental importance like health have to have precedent over the state interest in criminalizing.
So here we are. The last time you were in Toronto, you gave a speech at the convention center about how the bill before Parliament and you can correct me if I'm wrong,
Oh,
Shawn,
Bill
because I'm.
C-36, this Consumer Product
Yeah.
Safety Act.
But essentially is saying we've had the protection of the courts, the rule of law,
Mhm.
the courts,
It's gone.
independent courts, making the decision of whether the governments can go in and seize private property. And in the bill, this is now, isn't this,
It's law now.
it's law now.
It's,
Yeah.
So it'll be transitioned into effect. We still don't have Health
Yeah.
Canada inspectors exercising those powers.
But
in
they're
that
being
market.
trained now.
But they're being trained, and the beauty is the government's announced that they're going to bring Bill C-51 back, and that will give the same powers to Health Canada inspectors over food and drugs. Now, you've raised a really good point. So what your viewers need to know with this Consumer Product Safety Act is that Health Canada inspectors now, without any court supervision, can walk in and take control over private property. And they can hold it for an indefinite period of time, and in some cases they can keep it without ever going to a court. That literally is textbook tyranny. Because all tyranny means, anyone can pull their dictionary out, it's when the state has unfettered discretion. And that's why we have the rule of law, which is basically the principle that before the state can take control over you personally, either to kill or imprison you, or before they can take your property, they have to have the supervision of an independent body such as a court. And Health Canada has had tremendous powers before, but all supervised. So that's what's changing, and it's absolutely frightening.
And they
Well-
started playing with that even before Bill C-36 passed, because you look at the case of Life Choice of Eldon Dahl. Okay, they took $350,000 worth of his property. Okay, they never gave it back.
They let it expire,
They
right?
let it expire. This
Yeah.
is their common thing. They seize stuff, they stick it in a warehouse. They're the ones who insist on an expiry date. Most of these things hardly ever expire as long as they're kept in reasonable circumstances. They just don't go bad.
Right.
And they let all of that stuff expire, and then they get an order from the minister, not from a court, from the minister. Okay, burn it. And that's what they do. $350,000 worth of God knows what, and they just, poof, it's gone.
What can we do knowing that there's no support in things we know that work, well, that people want, and it's being blocked? What can we say today to people, or some who are not even aware that this is happening? What action can we take? What can we change in our life? How can we support?
That is a great question. First of all, I would encourage all of your viewers to go to the NHPPA website. That would be www.nhppa.org. And there's a place where you can give us your email address. And we would actually love your email address. We would like you, if you're on Facebook, to link us to your Facebook page and your Twitter page. But crucial that we get your email address, because what we do is we send out emails about what's happening, but also action steps. So next week we're going to be putting out an MP package with detailed instructions during this election, what you can do to try and ensure that we're only electing candidates that support our access to natural health products. But you have to become involved. So you have to, be tied in. If you want to give the website for your organization.
Well,
you
we're
have
at
to
the
be plugged
NHF.
in. You have to be plugged into organizations that are fighting to protect your access, because we actually rely on getting you involved. It's not what we do. We basically equip you to become involved.
Are we going to be able to do this, though? I mean, when we're talking about laws that have now passed that are taking the rule of law away, that
You know
we've
what?
been trying to build since the 1200s or before, and when we talk about courts that, I know you don't want to criticize them overtly, but courts that are making decisions that don't seem to be in the interests of justice or in the public interest, I mean, what remedy ultimately are we going to have?
Well, I mean, I literally think we're going to need a peaceful revolution. And I don't think it's going to happen until people wake up.
Yeah.
But people aren't aware that they're losing freedoms because the system's become much better at hiding itself. We now don't have police states where you have jackboots walking down the street and people...
We did here.
And people afraid of, talking to others and stuff like that for being reported. We now have the situation where we all believe we're absolutely free.
Yeah.
We're not paying any attention. but the rights have been taken away. So in the area of consumer products, if you cross the government, they will absolutely destroy you without the rule of law, without any process. You will experience tyranny. But for the rest of us, we won't care because we won't know.
Because they haven't got our beer yet.
It's like that,
It's only when you're
Exactly.
attacked, and it's a much more subtle system. It's no less safe if you're a target, but if you're not a target, it's a wonderful place to be, and that's why it's working. That's how they're able to accomplish it.
Yeah.
If
That's
you're in the
right.
world of I go with the distractions, then it doesn't affect you. But looking at everything that's happening around the world right now,
Yeah.
we need some of that.
This is it. But I mean, we need to realize one very simple thing. Okay, we Canadians watched Egypt. Now,
Yeah.
notwithstanding all the propositions that, well, you know, alphabet soup gangs were involved there, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Never mind that. The upshot of it was, and what people saw was, Egypt erupted and said, "We will have no more." And what happened was, Egypt had no more.
And it was all women, men, children.
Yes,
It wasn't about
yes.
this group, that group.
Yes.
Everyone came together for one purpose. and they
Yes. Now
stuck
here's the
together.
thing, Aaron. Here's the thing. We Canadians sit here and we look at Egypt and we go, right on, right on. And then put the same question to Canadians about the Canadian government, and
Yeah.
they say, oh, well, you can't fight City Hall. Duh.
Well,
Yeah.
if the government gets a little rowdy, Dee, and they start to hurt civilians,
They already
then
are.
the good news is we can count on the U.S. Air Force to come in and bomb them to protect us.
With our own depleted uranium.
We need to make some noise, and like you said, it needs to be civilized, but we need to shake it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I feel like
it-
it's coming in some ways.
It absolutely needs to be civilized. So we're working on at the NHPPA an accountability initiative to also start taking it. Well, first of all, one of the problems is people are having health products taken away they rely on, and there's no record. And so we're actually kind of want to create a Facebook type of thing where people can give their stories. Here's what my health condition, I've tried all of these chemical pharmaceuticals, they don't work, and here's what I rely on. So we need to create a record.
For sure.
And then we also need to start holding people accountable, people within the bureaucracy, because they seem to run the government, not the other way around. So we're going to start encouraging people, well, actually write this person, phone this person, not just your MP, but Health Canada people, and start getting them to understand that this is important for your life.
And that's why it's important that we sign up and get these emails, because we all forget at times. You get caught up in your own life. That's what's happening to the majority. You forget how important this is.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a homework, but we
Yeah.
all need to do it when we
It's a little
can.
bit
And
of
in
work.
the meantime, we also have to be vigilant about one more thing. We know about this toothpaste issue where they're moving the NPNs over to oral health products. They're going to fuzz the word natural. This is their next PR trip.
Right.
Is that they're going to fuzz the word natural so people don't know what it means anymore. And when that happens, they'll be able to move all kinds of things into the marketplace that Canadians can't fight.
And with that, again, I think education, because I go and read
Yeah.
all these product labels, and I don't understand all of it, but I do a lot of research, and a lot of the things sold at natural food stores have nothing to do with natural. Whether you're looking at toothpaste or deodorant, and I remember looking through about 10 deodorant products, I think, and I found one that came closest to semi-acceptable that I think should be sold in that store, based on what it stands for. But people just trust based
That's
on, it's
right.
natural.
That's
Okay, I'll
right.
trust you because I'm lazy to
I
go
got
further.
2 rules, okay? If I can't pronounce it, and if it won't rot, I don't eat it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, listen,
Thank
great to
you.
have you guys here. We're going a little bit overtime here today, but again, Shawn, nhppa.org, right?
Yes.
And D for the...
www.thenhf.com. And please, people, there is a Codex labeling meeting coming up in early May in Quebec City. The NHF is accredited. We will be there. We will be presenting petitions against GMOs. Please go to the nhf.com, sign that petition. It will go to Parliament and to the U.S. government and to the committee at Codex.
Okay, and Shawn, you're in town for the Total Health Show, right? Are you giving any great talks this time?
Well, I am. So I have a lecture both on Saturday and Sunday. Off the top of my head, I'm sorry I can't give you the times. And then Sunday I know I start at 5. I think Saturday I lecture, it's either at 1 or 2 o'clock. And then I'm also on a panel on Sunday with 3 other gentlemen.
Yeah, Jeffrey Smith.
Yeah, and Dr. Shiv Chopra
and Michael Schmidt, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's
Fantastic.
It's quite.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny. I mean, I'm going. Geez, I'd love to just watch the panel with those three. So it'll be a great panel.
That's great.
Okay, so the Total Health Show, of course, down at the Metro Convention Center all weekend.
All
So,
weekend.
Thank you for the motivation
Yeah.
and the reminder.
Well, thank
we
you
have
for
to keep
having
doing
us. It's
this.
great.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Okay, so that's a great show today,
always.
Aaron.
This was very nice.
This was a super show.
It was.
So thanks, everybody.
And don't
Coming
forget to watch Real Health on Monday night, where we will repeat this.
Great.
Thanks, Dee. That's fantastic.
8
that you said
p.m.
that. Okay, that's it for the show. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Monday for more Liquid Lunch right here on ThatChannel.com at noon.